What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Luke Innes here. It is review time again, and we're talking about a bit of a favourite of mine today. You may have noticed Matey Boy up there, and I'm a big fan of this movie, as that would suggest. So yeah, I'm talking about Hellraiser. So with Hellraiser, the reason I wanted to talk about it is because I've watched Hellraiser 5 or 6 times a year for the last sort of 5 years. Maybe a little bit less than that, but you know, I've seen Hellraiser a lot. When you've seen a film that many times, you kind of slip into autopilot a little bit with it. And I'm definitely that way with Hellraiser. I guess almost don't watch it with a critical eye, so I decided to watch it really close and kind of give it a proper assessment, because I always knew it was a film with problems, but I always just kind of ignored it, sat back, enjoyed the ride with Hellraiser. But I decided to just pull myself back, give it a proper critical watch, see what I had to say and how I would score it in a review. So this is how it goes. So the plot of Hellraiser is a little bit on the complicated side, but I'll do my best to explain it for you. A married couple, Larry and Julia, are moving into Larry's childhood home. The most recent resident was his brother Frank, who hasn't been seen or heard from for quite a while. When they move in, there's an accident. Some of Larry's blood gets spilt on the floor. The blood kind of revives Frank. Basically, the whole plot of the movie is that Frank has escaped from the Cenobite dimension, sort of hell, and needs blood in order to recover. He's got no skin and he's like sort of skeletal and stuff, and he needs, you know, more blood to add more flesh to his bones and to turn him into a full person. It turns out that Julia had an affair with Frank before the events of the film itself, and she agrees when he finds her to help him get blood. She's gonna kill men for him to eat. While all this is going on, Kirsty Cotter, Larry's daughter, when she kind of gets involved, she finds out what's going on. So there's basically a box, and when you solve the box, that's what opens the portal to the Cenobite dimension. And so yeah, the rest of the film is basically her trying to work out what's going on. When she does manage to solve the box, she's got to work out a way to essentially bargain for her life with the Cenobites, and she ends up trying to lead them to Frank. Now obviously the film was written and directed by Clive Barker. It was based on his own novella, The Hellbound Heart, which I've never read. I should though. And it stars, of course, Doug Bradley and my bae Ashley Lawrence. So let's get down with the actual review. The really great thing about Hellraiser, especially when you view it in the context of when it was made and when it was released. In 1987, we'd reached the point where horror villains were either your Jason or your Michael Myers type, so your kind of strong, silent, emotionless killer, or they were kind of more in the Freddy Krueger vein. They were this sort of wisecracking anti-hero. Obviously there were plenty of deviations from that formula, but none so high profile as Hellraiser. Obviously in this, the iconic character being Pinhead, played by Doug Bradley, he's a very traditional bad guy. He's not an anti-hero. He is a real old school demonic bad guy. Obviously he's got that big booming voice and, you know, the demonic appearance, and not only that, but it kind of takes a bit of a step more towards kind of the ideas of like vampire films. Obviously a long running thing in a lot of horror has been ideas of like temptation and curiosity and kind of reaching too far in your desire. Curiosity killed the cat, I guess, is the easiest way of saying it, and that's the whole idea that's kind of being explored in Hellraiser a little bit, is this whole idea of once you complete the puzzle box, you know, it opens up this world of, you know, pleasure and pain indivisible, as they say in the movie, and kind of people become destroyed by their own fascination with this whole concept. Another thing that I really enjoyed, that I didn't really, in all the times that I've seen it, notice until I really sat down and kind of properly deconstructed the movie. I love the sort of surreal style in which the movie's put together. You know, there's a lot of kind of transitional shots used of like the classic one is the IV line bag filling up with blood, and kind of puts things together in a very odd sort of way. as the story flows. So it's kind of got a gothic sensibility about it in that way, you know, this combination of very traditional kind of horror ideas in terms of morality and, you know, combining all that with the general imagery of the movie. I mean, the Cenobites all have a very body modification-y underground subculture look to them. There's so much to love about Hellraiser, I really do. The acting's great in it as well. I didn't mention that. Claire Higgins, I think her name is, plays Julia, you know, this sort of dangerous femme fatale. She goes from being like a reluctant participant to seemingly actively enjoying the killing, which is definitely well put across. And of course I've already spoken about Doug Bradley, but I mean Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty Cotton is amazing. That's a woman who should have been a much better known actress than she was. I mean, she was superb in this film. She plays the character perfectly. She strikes the balance really well between kind of an exaggerated and over-the-top performance and a very nuanced performance as well, you know. That said, there are some problems with Hellraiser, it's got to be said. I feel like the inclusion of the boyfriend character, Kirsty's boyfriend Steve, is a little bit shallow. That's a bit of an attempt, because he's only really in like 2 or 3 scenes. And it's all a bit of an attempt so that when it comes to the end of the movie, spoiler alert, she isn't alone. You know, obviously everyone else in the family has died. They obviously they decided that it was better that she have someone with her, you know, potentially going into the sequel, which is another story for another time anyway. But I think another thing that is quite removing is that, and this is something I didn't mention that I should, the practical effects are really awesome. They've kind of got a look of something like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. So if you like that movie and like the effects in that, they kind of have a similar kind of quality to them. But there's a lot of, and I don't even know the proper term for it, because it's not CGI, but like superimposed images, you know, like the like electricity coming off the box and all that sort of thing, and that looks really rubbish, I've got to say. But you know, aside from that, in a visual sense, the movie is really strong. It's got a really striking look to it, the whole movie. Overall, Hellraiser, and you know, whilst trying to be as unbiased as possible with the fact that this is a movie that I really love, I've got to say it's just too strong to even kind of factor those things into a large degree. I just think this movie is so good at what it does and so effective that a lot of those things sort of cease to matter. So, I mean, I've got to give this movie a big 2 thumbs up and say that Hellraiser is a 9 out of 10. It's got such a lovely tone, a marvellous tone, really great story. The only thing that really holds it back are the things that I said, like I say, the story, kind of there's some elements that don't really make an awful lot of sense. But other than that, it's really a very watertight movie and just really enjoyable to watch, and is clearly, you know, patently is something very different within, you know, the horror genre. So yeah, Hellraiser's a 9 out of 10 for me. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully I'll see you very soon with another review. Please do check out my podcast, there's a link in the description. I've been Luke Innes, you've been you, good night.